Welcome back to Ancient Texts Solving Modern Dilemma, Bhagavad Gita Explained. We're picking up right where we left off, diving deeper into Chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. This section, often called Karma Yoga, the path of selfless service, it's known for being just incredibly practical.
Yeah, very much so.
It's all about how action itself, just the act of doing, can be, well, a really powerful tool for purifying the mind and intellect, helping us navigate all the attachments and, frankly, the conflicts we face every day.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we're really focusing on the source material you've shared. We want to explore how these ancient teachings about performing action, but without getting all tangled up in the results, can give us a truly sustainable framework.
Especially for navigating our incredibly busy and, let's face it, often ethically complex modern lives.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. The chapter kicks off with Arjuna on the battlefield, right? And he's facing this just impossible ethical dilemma.
Yeah, fight his own family or basically abandon his duty as a warrior.
And after hearing Krishna praise the path of knowledge, contemplation or jnana, Arjuna is just completely bewildered. He pretty much asks Krishna, look, if understanding and intelligence are superior, why on earth are you pushing me into this ghastly, violent action?
It's that classic human confusion, isn't it? That feeling of wanting to retreat into thought versus, engaging with the messy reality of the world.
Absolutely. And it's a dilemma so many of us face. Maybe not, thankfully, on a physical battlefield, but certainly when we're confronted with tough choices at work or moral ambiguities or just the sheer volume of demands on us.
Right. Do you step back and analyze endlessly, or do you just act? Arjuna feels really stuck between those two paths.
And Krishna's response is, well, it's revolutionary. It cuts straight through Arjuna's perceived either situation.
He doesn't say choose knowledge instead of action. No. He starts by clarifying something really fundamental. Action is not optional. Exactly. The ancient text makes this crystal clear right away. In verse 3.5, Krishna explains that basically all men are forced to act helplessly. No one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Wow. Not even for a moment.
Not even for a moment. And he hammers this home again in verse 3.8, saying, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. He even adds, one cannot even maintain one's physical body without work.
So it's not even a debate about whether to act. It's just acknowledging that action is baked into existence itself.
Precisely. He talks about different paths, sure, like seeking knowledge or living a more engaged social life. But the key insight here is, whichever path you might lean towards, action is required first.
Okay, so you have to engage, do your duties.
And then knowledge, true understanding, can blossom. There's no real choice between inaction and knowledge in that sense. You act, and understanding follows from that engagement.
Right, and that's where the core principles of Karma Yoga come in then, since action is unavoidable.
Exactly. Krishna teaches how to act in a way that leads towards freedom, not more bondage. And the most fundamental principle is Nishkama Karma.
Desireless action. That just sounds, well, it feels almost counterintuitive, especially in our results-driven world today.
It really does. But it's about performing your actions without being attached to the results. The Gita's most famous verse, 2.47, captures this perfectly.
To action alone you have a right, and never at all to its fruits.
Let not the fruits of action be your motive. It's about putting your energy, your focus into the doing, the effort, the process itself, rather than being totally consumed by what might happen, the outcome.
And that's coupled with Svadharma, you mentioned.
Yes, Svadharma. That's about understanding and performing your specific duty, what's appropriate for you based on your nature, your skills, your circumstances in life, recognizing your role and acting accordingly.
Okay. And the third one?
Yajna. Seeing your actions as a kind of sacrifice or an offering.
Action as an offering.
That's interesting. Verse 3.9, I think, links doing work as a sacrifice, like for a higher purpose, to avoiding being bound by those actions.
Exactly. It connects our individual work to maintaining a larger harmony, like a cosmic balance. It suggests our work has meaning beyond just personal gain.
And verse 2.48 adds that crucial piece about even-mindedness, staying balanced, calm, whether you succeed or fail.
And here's where it gets really interesting and connects right back to Arjuna's crisis and, frankly, our modern ethical challenges.
How so?
Well, think about it. How do you fully engage in your svadharma, your duty, when the potential results are painful or uncertain? Or maybe even look bad from a normal point of view.
Right, like Arjuna fighting his family.
Precisely. And how do you pour your energy into the action, the karma, while genuinely staying detached from whether it works out or not? That Nishkama Karma piece. And maintaining that even-mindedness, that balance from 2.48 when, say, a project at work fails, or a tough ethical call leads to blowback, or you just don't meet that target, especially when outcomes feel so tied to our identity, our value.
It really does seem like this ancient wisdom is offering a framework for navigating the pressure cooker of modern professional life.
Yeah, and our source material gives some really compelling examples of these principles actually working today. Like, take the corporate world.
Right, the Godiva Japan example with Jerome Chuchon.
What did he do again? He shifted the focus.
Yeah, instead of just hammering sales targets, he focused the team on cultivating a noble purpose, basically, spreading happiness through chocolate.
Okay, so focusing on the why and the how.
Exactly. Focusing on the quality of the action, the intent behind it, spreading happiness, doing it right rather than only the outcome, the sales numbers, and what happened.
It changed things internally.
Totally. The source says teams felt way more engaged, motivated by this higher purpose. And then, almost organically, that led to better performance, more innovation. It wasn't about ignoring results, but making them secondary to the action's integrity and purpose.
And it's not just anecdotal. There's research catching up, right?
Yeah, that 2024 study you mentioned in the source, it actually found that adopting these karma yoga principles, like being duty-oriented, being somewhat indifferent to outcomes, can genuinely cultivate key management traits.
Like what?
Things like boosting motivation, fostering a more balanced, even creative work environment. It suggests these aren't just, lofty spiritual ideas. They have tangible impacts on performance and well-being.
That's powerful. What about other fields? Healthcare?
Oh, definitely. Think about frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. They were, in many ways, modern karma yogis.
How so?
Well, what drove them? Often, it was that deep sense of svadharma, their duty to heal, to care. In that critical moment, their motivation wasn't primarily external reward. It was often Nishkama Karma, that selfless internal drive to just serve.
So that path of selfless service, seva as it's called, actually provided a kind of psychological resilience against enormous stress.
It seems so. The source highlights how showing up with radical empathy, recognizing our interconnectedness, that idea that we are all one, is a direct application of these principles in a crisis. It's action for others, done without primary concern for personal safety or getting praise.
We also see this in environmental action, right?
Yeah.
Framing climate action as karma yoga.
Yeah, acting out of a sense of duty or offering to the planet, even if the outcomes feel overwhelming or progress seems slow. The idea of ahimsa, non-harming, expands beyond just people to not harming the environment. It becomes a real call to action.
Like Mark Barash planting millions of trees that kind of dedicated selfless environmental seva.
Exactly. And it's not just about these huge gestures either. It shows up in everyday community service, even simple acts of kindness. That joy found in just doing something for somebody else, as the source mentions with kids yoga, that's fundamental karma yoga. The reward is found in the act of service itself.
Okay, this sounds great, but there must be misunderstandings. When we talk about detachment from results, does that mean working for free or just not caring about doing a good job?
Right, good point. And no, that's not it. The source clarifies this. Karma yoga is about your internal attitude. Being unattached to the outcome, the fruits, doesn't mean rejecting fair pay or not striving for excellence. It's about the why behind your work.
Okay, so the motivation matters. And not all social service is automatically karma yoga.
Correct. The key difference is that internal motivation and the detachment. Are you serving because it's your duty, svadharma, as an offering, and you're okay whether you get recognized or the result you wanted happens, or is there underlying expectation of reward, praise, something like that?
Got it. And there was a caution about privilege, too.
A really important one. We need to be authentic. Applying these principles shouldn't become some way for someone privileged to, use other people's struggles just for their own spiritual development without genuinely engaging and trying to address those struggles. The focus has to stay on sincere service.
That makes sense. So, okay, for someone listening now, maybe facing deadlines, tough ethical calls, feeling swamped at work, how do you actually do this? How do you apply these ancient ideas practically, day to day?
Well, it really starts with conscious intention. Try viewing your work, whatever it is, as your duty, your svadharma, and maybe as an offering. Focus on performing the action itself with integrity, with excellence. Give your absolute best effort.
Even if the task isn't enjoyable, or the outcome feels uncertain or even negative.
Especially then, focus on the quality of the doing, regardless of enjoyment or guaranteed success.
The source seemed to boil it down to 4 key things for practical implementation.
Yeah, essentially. Duty orientation, know and commit to your responsibilities. Ego management, act from service, not personal ego. Detachment, do the work without clinging desperately to the results. And no expectation of reward, do it because it's the right thing, your Svatharma, not just for praise or gain.
And the payoff, what's the transformative power here?
It's potentially huge, both individually and societally. Individually, practicing karma yoga can build serious emotional resilience. It reduces stress, anxiety, because your inner peace isn't totally dependent on external results going your way.
Right, it fosters inner calm, maybe improves relationships through more empathy.
Exactly. And paradoxically, it often leads to greater, more mindful productivity. Why? Because you're focused on the task right here, right now, not distracted by worrying about the future or potential failure.
And the societal impact.
It's profound. When individuals start acting more from a place of duty and selfless service, it naturally shifts the focus from me to us or we. Tackling big collective challenges like climate change or social inequality becomes a more natural extension of this mindset.
Like that quote from the source, when I is replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness.
Beautifully put, isn't it? It really highlights the power of collective, selfless action for creating harmony.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Chapter 3 of the Gita. It isn't asking you to quit your job or run off to a cave.
Not at all. It's offering a powerful, really actionable path to find meaning and freedom right within the challenges of your daily actions, your work, your life.
By shifting your focus, maybe just a little, from the fruits, the outcomes, toward the quality of performing your duty itself.
And perhaps seeing your work as an offering, even in small ways.
You can transform even the most mundane or difficult tasks into a kind of spiritual practice.
Serving others selflessly with that attitude of detachment from the results, it's more than just doing good. The Gita suggests it's a profound path towards your own liberation and at the same time contributing to a more harmonious world.
Especially now, right? In the face of all today's complex issues, climate change, ethical messes in business, health crises, these principles of karma yoga give us a framework, a way to act effectively, meaningfully, without getting crushed by the weight of the outcomes.
So here's a final thought, maybe something provocative to carry with you this week. Krishna tells Arjuna that this path of karma yoga, selfless, focused action, detachment from results, it offers not just, scraping by or survival, but fulfillment and freedom. It leads to a meaningful existence. So the question for you is, how might consciously applying just one principle from Chapter 3, maybe focusing purely on the quality of your effort on one task, or dedicating a difficult conversation to a higher purpose, or just intentionally letting go of anxiety about one potential outcome, how might that shift your perspective on the next tough task or ethical decision you face in your own life this week?
We hope this deep dive into Chapter 3 has sparked some practical insights you can experiment with. We certainly look forward to exploring more ancient texts and modern dilemmas with you in our next deep dive.